We're at time.
We are at 11:03 Western, which is 2:03 Eastern. Let's go ahead and jump in. Thanks, folks, for joining. Ben Hubbard is on.
Ben Hubbard.
And Chandra's on. I see a lot of good names in there. Guys, thanks for joining. This is the November edition of the Nautilus Notes. Yeah, we switched things up because we're out here for Dreamforce, and we thought it would be good to kind of do a cool down run, talk through what we saw, what's interesting, share some of what we're learning, and highlight some cool stuff too, because we're out here in the Bay Area and we got some real good partners out here like Paul Mackinac at LeanCog, who is our first like partner customer showcase in person.
Yeah,
so that's pretty cool.
Welcome.
Oh man!
Yeah.
Yay! Gooey. He's still called Gooey, right?
I think we do call that GUI. It's the GUI suit.
Yeah.
Sir, put the chair up on the thing behind it.
That's our Squid voice recording.
Yeah, we're gonna have a 3D dancing squid.
That's just called animatronics.
Right.
And I wasn't putting it on, that's for sure.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and dive in. We'll see how much. I don't know. We often go over. Maybe we'll get under today. We'll see. We'll have a good time. So Nautilus Notes is something that we do. Well, we've done it internally. It's good for a long time, and we started to do it this year externally, inviting customers and partners, practitioners, Squid users that are out there in the wild to come. We want to hear how things are going. What are you doing? What's working? What issues are you hitting? And this time specifically, again, it's going to be a Salesforce focused one, because we know there's a lot of stuff coming down the pipe that we're really excited about. We have kind of a doc that we run through, and I'm very validated in that because I just found out this is one of the quotes of the month. PowerPoints are banned at Amazon and a couple other companies as well. They basically just use docs. They actually print out documents.
No.
I know. But they give them to everyone. They read them for like 15 minutes silently, and then they talk about it. And there's no PowerPoint.
They read them together in synchronized.
Yeah, right. Synchronized reading.
Audibly, like in class.
Synchronized reading will be the next Olympic sport. But no, I just appreciate that. I like a document. I don't know. PowerPoint just always really hard for me. Anyways, it's hard.
It is.
Okay. All right. So what's going on at Squid? Just want to remind you, if you are new to Squid, we have a webinar that is just for you. If you have users that you're wanting to get into Squid and get up to speed on what it can do, please go to the webinar section of our website where you can register for the new to Squid webinar. That's every Wednesday. I'll go ahead and put this link in the chat there. And so again, if you're new or you have someone, a new dev or a new admin, please come to that every Wednesday at 11 Eastern. We take 30 minutes, walk through the composer, kind of building your first page, getting into the concepts. It's a great way to get started. A couple other things that are coming up. We've got a virtual build an app workshop. That's on December 4th. And then there's going to be a deep dive into there's this really sweet demo that is a non-branded version of a POC that Chris Stern built. It's a utility request form. It's a highly branded, very ton of conditional logic workflow that's really beautiful. And that upcoming webinar is going to be when is that? That is December 18th. They're going to get into what all is in there, how to build something like that. So that's going to be pretty cool. And this is just for us. Registration link for today. You don't need that. Okay. A couple quotes of the month. this was a good one from JD, and maybe Jay, maybe you can give some elaboration on this. Recursion is easy to explain to people. The root word is recurse, which means to curse over and over again, which is exactly what the developer is doing until they give up. Maximum call stack exceeded.
I forgot what I was about to say.
Yeah.
JD
What
and
was
I-
the context there?
JD and I carpool,
Yeah.
and I was talking about how hard recursion is to explain to people. And that is what he told me in response.
Which,
And the laughter was nigh uncontrollable.
I mean, it is a recursive statement that he is doing
Yeah.
as well. Like there's layers there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Man.
I was like, that's going in the notes.
Sam Alexander said that users have no idea what an opportunity is, which is indeed a lot funnier if opportunity is not capitalized.
Yes.
Everyone is just so
The context for that one is
No.
it's not fair. We're picking on them.
No.
They had renamed their opportunity.
Well, see, what I like about this, though, is even out of context, I think it's helpful because the whole point is like, you don't want users to have to think about what object stuff is in. And that's the whole point is like with Squid, I don't got to worry about what object, what database. I can just think about doing my work with this customer. And so I think opportunity is a great name for an object. But I thought that was pretty
that was
helpful.
pretty good.
That's good. I already mentioned how PowerPoint's banned at Amazon. I'm going to harp on that for a long time. I feel really validated by Jeff Bezos, that is. And then just from today, Paul says, I feel like Matt and I are a before and after photo.
Yeah, have a look.
We got it. Yeah. And Cody said, yeah, dev looking for a job versus one with a job. So that was pretty good. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into some Squid functionality. We've got a couple of pieces of real Squid specific content today. This one, and then Paul's going to show something pretty cool later. But then a lot of the stuff is again going to be sharing kind of what we've seen at Dreamforce. But this first one, we always like to do a contributor's choice where we look at an aspect of the Squid product. Everyone's touched on, you probably touched on most parts of Squid as you work, but a lot of the time there are things that are off in a nook or a cranny, stuff that's been in there since day one that you didn't even know about. That still happens for me every now and then. I've been working with Squid for 6 years now. So I always find it helpful to go look at a piece of functionality in Squid, take some time to look at it, look at some of the details that you may not have known were there. And this month I wanted to look at filters and filter sets. So let me show you a page that I created in our demo org here. And I just created just a basic list page. And actually, you know what? Before I do that, I do want to show, maybe you are plenty aware of this, but Salesforce has invested a ton in the Lightning experience over the years. And specifically, list views have gotten a lot better. And I wanted to show some of that functionality. Let me just share my screen here. My page isn't loading that whole time I hit pause. And now it's loading. So yeah, I wanted to look at vanilla Salesforce because we really don't want you to reinvent the wheel if you don't have to. And so if you need, just some of the out-of-box features of the list views in Salesforce, they're actually pretty good. And specifically, they've added, I don't know when they added quick filters. Was that this year?
So we noticed it.
Yeah. But yeah, I remember, back in the days of Salesforce Classic, we did a lot of stuff with Squid list views. We would just create a table. You had mass edits. You had inline editing. You could throw some filters on there. And I think Salesforce has done a good job of listening to their users and has added a lot of good functionality. So in case you haven't seen it, as soon as I can get there we go. Okay, so account list view. we'll go to one of these here. You can do inline editing. You can do mass actions now. Let's see. It's the way it works is kind of interesting. So you can select multiple records, and then you can enter in a value, and you can choose to update all of your selected items as well. They've also got quick filters over here, which is just a different kind of abstraction of how list views work. And you're just doing all the stuff that you would do with creating a list view, but it's a pretty intuitive interface. I really enjoy using it. So all that to say, a lot of value in just standard Lightning list views that they've added to over the years. So those are quick filters that I wanted to call out. But Squid also has filters. And so if you're wanting to do something above and beyond what you can get in the standard Lightning components, and I'll give a couple examples. If you want to have kind of robust filtering options for related lists, if you want to be able to have multiple filters on dashboards, because the way Squid filters work, they're not simply part of the table component. They actually control the model. They control the data layer underneath it. And so we can use these filters to filter our data, and anything that is showing that data is gonna change. So we could put charts and visualizations on there. And so I know one frustration that admins get is when folks ask for more than 3 filters on a dashboard in Salesforce. And so this is one of those ways that we can help admins say yes. So let's get into Squid filters after I take a swig of my lean cog water bottle here.
Thank you, Matt. I'll pay you later.
Brought to you by our sponsor.
Matt,
Yes.
I'm going to be on the fly.
Do it.
Did you look at the filtering page that we set up as part of sales? One of the demos that we built for.
No, but
this?
let's go pull it up. Yeah.
So if you could go to the Dreamforce page that we built,
Yep.
it's in the demo org.
So Rob's team really hard to give our sales and pre-sales team just incredible ammo to work with when it comes to demoing Squid. And they've got a ton of these great demo pages in our demo org, which we'll show you here in just a second.
And then if you'll scroll down and in that to the capabilities section, there's a
Demo hub. There it is.
Yeah. Open. Yeah, you're not sharing. You need to share again. Open Demo Hub and then open the DF18 page, the DF19 page. Move on.
I really like San Francisco, but I miss my Chattanooga internet.
Yep.
Internet's new out here.
That's December.
That's the
That's the
December
December
quote. I'm writing it down right now so we don't forget.
Not that. Click on DF19.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
This is interesting.
Here we go.
But click up it.
Oh man.
And then if you want to click on tables and filters in the capability section, the next block.
Oh, yeah. Wait. Hold on. Advanced. Oh, wait. Where? Tables and filters.
Or I'm not exactly sure what it's in.
Grids and tables. Advanced search and filter.
Advanced search.
There it is. Cool.
And then
right here. Advanced filters.
No, the one in the middle.
Contact selection.
Contact selection.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you guys were showing these SFTC logo. There it is. Okay.
Yeah, we showed this in the booth, and it's one of these demos that, like, you know, when you explain what's going on here, wow, people are interested in it. Mostly the features here is, you know, a different arrangement of where the filters actually are on the page. The grouping and aggregation of filter sets in an accordion, in various accordions, so that you can kind of categorize your filters.
Woo! I
And
love
then,
that.
and then, yeah, the filter controls themselves, the new V2 filter controls, super relevant.
Man, I love those sliders.
Yeah.
What's that term when it feels like it's physical? Skeuomorphic? No.
Yeah, skeuomorphic.
Skeuomorphic.
Yeah, skeuomorphic.
Oh man. Yeah.
But then functionally, also filtering on parent data and filtering on child relationship.
Oh
data
yeah.
is super powerful.
Yeah.
And not easy to do in standard layouts.
Yeah.
If at all.
Well, it's funny. In a lot of the implementations that we've done, we've seen folks get frustrated by the limitations on how many formula fields you can have on an object, and they're running up against those limits because they're trying to get data from parent objects or grandparent objects in line.
Yeah.
And so they're using the Salesforce formula fields to do that. And with Squid, we can use all the stuff that SQL queries give you to be able to go up that parentage and bring it in. You don't have to use formula fields anymore.
And the same for child relationships. So
Mhm.
here, a list of contacts, but we want to filter contacts by the opportunity stage that those contacts are related to through the
Whoa.
opportunity contact
Man,
membership.
That's awesome. So you're actually interacting with 3 different objects in this filter because the contacts are related through opportunity contact role,
That's
and
right.
you're going up through that to the opportunity
That's
to
right.
get the opportunity stage to
Yeah.
say, just go get me contacts that are in prospecting opportunities, which we don't have any. But no, that is awesome. Cool. So let's go look at this in the composer a little bit. I built a page with one of each of the different types of filters that we have. So let's call out the filter properties. So first up, we've got filter type. These are the 5 main types of filters that you can set up: date range, numeric range, multi-select, select option, and a toggle. And then you can also choose to filter server side or client side. That's awesome. That came, 2 years ago? We added client side filtering.
It's been
Narrow.
slowly but surely getting put
It's
in
rolled
place
out.
over the last
In different.
So
it's
client
been
side
iterative.
filtering is so awesome because you can choose to load in all records and maybe sacrifice a little bit of page load time, but then for the fact that when you're filtering client side, it's going to be incredibly
You
zippy.
can also do it on UI models
Yes.
or UI fields,
Yep.
which is really cool.
Oh yeah.
So you can create your own evaluation,
Uh-huh.
like true, false, up, down, whatever, and then filter on that.
Yeah, so one thing that I've done in a few places in our own CRM org, when I've been creating pages to go look at customer data and stuff like that, is sometimes I'll create formula fields in Squid, and then because we can do page load actions, when the page loads, I'll apply a filter on a formula field that's been calculated and narrow it down just to those records.
Save
that
you
we
another
took that.
formula field out of your
Yeah,
500.
yeah, absolutely. So not that we're going to get rid of formula fields in Salesforce. There's still very good reasons to do that. Anyways, all that to say. So filters, server side, client side. You can have automatic filters and manual filters. Automatic just lets you pick your field and then configure a few things, and bam, you've got a filter there. And what it actually does behind the scenes, if you've ever done that, is it's actually going to create conditions for you, which I'm going to go ahead and refresh the page because there's some hidden ones in there. You can see the owner ID is the 7th condition there, but we don't see numbers 1 through 6.
It's a beautiful logo.
It's good. It's good every time.
Is that the release, the Winter 20? Is that supposed to be the Winter 20? Or what is it?
No, it's pointing to a static resource that
Doesn't exist.
doesn't exist.
Oh, God.
Is this the point where Carl would squeeze the turkey normally? And
Probably.
Oh, shoot! That's why
Oh,
we're
to
all
Carl.
over the place.
Oh, man.
To Carl.
Carl. Carl is currently in the air.
yeah, on his way back to our beloved trending.
Yeah.
He's not a victim of the Dreamforce drinking binge. Is that?
No, he's happily.
We're all victims. This water bottle has a hint of bourbon. Someone-
This is the chillax drink.
Right.
We just killed ourselves for 4 days, so we're letting our hair down.
Someone said that this is what it would taste like
Somewhere
if
the beards
LaCroix.
down.
LaCroix made bourbon.
If there was bourbon LaCroix, flat bourbon.
Yeah.
That's a great product.
Yeah. All right. Man, this is taking forever.
Yeah.
Well, you just have to trust me that it creates those conditions behind the scenes for you. The point being, filters are the UI side. Conditions are in the data layer. Your filters will wire up to conditions that control that data layer. Yes, thanks, Arnper. Appreciate the solidarity there. But yeah, they so when you set up an automatic filter, it automatically, as you would think, sets up your wiring underneath with the model. Man, this is taking
It
forever.
is as advertised.
It is
automatic,
but this page loading is not.
not automatic.
All right.
You might
Well,
want to move on.
we'll look at it in the runtime. So date range is kind of what you would think. And I think you have some controls over which dates show up, or is that just in the date picker? Date range filters?
I think they just default so to today.
Just defaults to today. Cool. Stage, I just did an automatic filter on a pick list. And so we're leveraging Salesforce's metadata to just go grab the pick list values that are in there. This is what Rob was saying, is we're actually filtering on a parent object record. So a parent object field. So in this case, filter opportunities by account industry. And there we go. Finally made it. Okay. So there we go. You can see all those invisible conditions that got generated by our automatic filters. So we have some control over the experience of the filter. Is it autocomplete, or does the list show up so you can select from that? One thing recently that was added to V2 is the ability to conditionally render individual filters, which is awesome. And so before if you wanted to only show certain filters, you had to do it at the level of the filter set. And so what's cool about this is that you can render based on things like you can go get condition values even. So if a condition has a value, then show this other filter, which lets you have essentially cascading filters. So for instance, filter on account. Now I'm going to go select an account. Then within that account, I can filter on maybe child accounts or within opportunities in that account. So you can have kind of cascading self-building filter consoles there because of that. So a lot of cool stuff with that. Which is kind of like the date range, except it just gives you numbers. And then I did want to call out, let's see, this is going to be how I'm filtering on the account ID, which is a reference field on opportunity. And what is awesome about filtering on reference fields in Squid is that you then get an option to add lookup filters to your filter. We heard you like filters, so we put filters in your filters. So if you filter on a reference field, in this case, I want to be able to filter based on accounts. I can limit the accounts that show up to only be, in this case, accounts where the owner is me. You look like you want to say something.
You know what version this functionality rolled out in?
Tell me.
Take a guess. How old do you think this is?
It's pretty old, but it's a hidden one. It's what, like 3-4 years ago? Squid 1 had filters on filters?
Lookup filters.
Are you kidding me?
Wait.
No.
Lookup filters, yes, but not lookup filters on filters?
Filter control.
Really? I don't think so.
No, I mean, it was baked into table. Filters on tables had.
Yeah. There was no filter set.
It was
Table.
just on the filter table.
I don't.
Yeah, we'll have to
I'm
go
not
have
sure. I'm not sure.
the judges will have to look at that.
It's so much functionality.
Yeah.
Let me go log into my
Exactly.
Squid 1 org.
Exactly. I know
Never
this as
forget.
being a product manager. I quit. Okay. So last thing I wanted to show that is really, really useful is what you can do with model sourced filters. So in this case, I created a condition that says where owner ID is, and I, let it have a variable that could be injected there. And then for the source of that filter, because it's manual, I can choose my source. And the options there, I can just go type in the values that I want in there.
You're about to get
Postpone
restarted.
it. Yeah, I got it.
Postpone it.
I can go enter in those values manually. I can just pull from the metadata. I could define it with a JavaScript snippet, or I can do rows in a model. And so, for instance, here I've got another model that's an aggregate model. It aggregates opportunities by owner. And I can use that as a source for my owner filter. So instead of getting all owners, I'm only getting owners that actually have opportunities. All right. That went way too long. Way too long.
We're getting a little bit
That's
of
cool stuff.
chop. You want to drop your video and just do the room video, and maybe that'll save.
Yeah,
because
let's
you're
do it.
processing audio too.
Cool. I'm going to stop my video. Y'all can still see us though.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Tony says from John Corinth, there's so much to do and it all has to be done.
That is it. I was there for that.
So Arn Pear asked, did someone say conditional render on an individual filter? Yes. And he asked, based on a snippet value, I believe you can do that because that is an option for our conditional rendering. Yep, snippet returns true. Mhm. Yep, you can do it. Awesome. Okay, let's shift gears a bit because we've been at Dreamforce all week. Let's talk through what we saw and what we're excited about. So Paul, we'll actually start with you. You said something that Lean Cog is interested in. What is that?
Do you want to just kill the share and just we can just talk about it?
Oh, sure.
Either.
Not give our hand away.
No, what I mean is then they can be looking at us instead of looking at the notes.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Do we really want them looking at us?
That's also a good point. But
Would
for
have been better on Monday.
yeah.
But no, on the obviously mobile's bigger and bigger. We do a lot more Squid pages on mobile. I think Squid's a great fit for mobile because people can't do 500 scrolls. You know, you got to give them a very precise, short screen to let them do what they need to do efficiently. And deployment to mobile has always been challenging.
Yeah.
Depending on how the org's set up, you don't have a lot of levers in Salesforce to deploy to mobile in the traditional way. You could deploy your own tab or you could do a page override, but it was kind of a blunt force thing. And now with the Lightning enhancements for the Lightning app builder in the new mobile functionality, you have parity control over deployment with the way you deploy to desktop. It's just another attribute. Say, hey, this profile and this record type on mobile, give them this page.
Right.
And if they're on desktop, give them that page. And that's the way it should have been for a long time. And we've done a lot of workarounds. So very excited to see easier deployment of mobile pages.
So this really comes out. This is really talking about the improvements that they made to the Lightning mobile app.
Yeah.
Specifically, and how basically all layouts now that are in Lightning essentially are responsive and you can.
But you can control more granularly
Which things show up.
Lightning app goes to what target, and you can create apps within the mobile app.
Yeah, before you couldn't even get Lightning apps in mobile.
Right.
You would just see like the object tabs or whatever. So now they talk about app parity between desktop and mobile.
Right.
So all the apps that you have in desktop, you can get them in mobile if you want. One of the things that I really loved about that is that previously, when you would try to configure a detail page, a detail view in Lightning, it was not Lightning, and at least in mobile, it was an other thing. Like it was Visual Force. I think you had to configure it in
The
compact layouts. Yeah. And so when it came to putting Squid in that, you can do that. You could go put Squid inside, a Visual Force page, and you can put that in the compact layout. But gosh, it was such a complicated process. And so now that like detail pages in mobile are true Lightning pages, it actually is. Bam, Squid page in the detail page. There it is.
And the PMs for the Lightning team, one of the things they talked about was the concern that people have with, well, my detail page has a ton of stuff on it. I don't want to just dump all that. However smart you make it, it's only going to be so smart because you're basically just you're going to just change the size, but there's still the volume of things in there. And so the whole point was I could choose which device type these things render for, and that's new. And that's one of the big improvements for the Lightning app.
And that's part of the set component visibility property that's available in Lightning App Builder, which I actually didn't. I think I meant to talk about this somewhere else. That's actually one of the ways that you can do page assignments with Squid in Lightning. You can render one Squid page in Lightning versus another based on record type.
So basically, I have two in the layout, two in the page.
Because you can do page assignments in Lightning based on profile and user right now, but you can't do it based on record type. And that's going to be one way you could do that. I think, Rob, you had another way of doing it. I
Well,
can't
you
remember what it was.
could control the entire Lightning App Builder page by record type.
Oh, right, yeah, exactly. So couple of levels of doing that.
But the nice thing is not everyone has the data set up to use the native assignment. So with the filters, that gives you an out if you can't do it through the assignment table.
Right.
The other thing that I was really interested in mobile going in, I've heard folks talk about Mobile Publisher, which was announced for Community Cloud back in January. It looks like it's not just communities, but you can actually use that for back office apps as well, to wrap up a Lightning app and push it to iOS or Android. And went to a session on that, talked to the PM, and he confirmed that it really is they're Lightning pages.
Right.
So it's not something separate, like I think Salesforce CMS is a separate thing.
Right.
Which you can do that with Mobile Publisher too, I think. But he was saying that.
I don't know if that's the case.
Oh, okay.
But
Cool.
Keep going.
But he was saying it actually does wrap up a Lightning page, and it does support custom Lightning components, Aura and LWC, which means you can put Squid in there.
Right.
And so one thing I'm really excited about in 2020 is seeing what we can do with Mobile Publisher with things like the DSS, because they showed, I think, an app built with Mobile Publisher for Louis Vuitton or one of these other name brands, and of course I'm sure they've got a developer team that's building Lightning web components that are highly custom branded and stuff. But what about like that middle 60% of folks that want to get a really awesome branded app, but they don't necessarily have those kinds of resources? I think you can do that with Squid and DSS in Mobile Publisher. That's something I really want to get into in 2020. I'm excited about.
And the mobile publisher stuff too actually was really, it encompasses a lot. It does much of the work for you in terms of getting something out to one of those app stores, either to the iOS store or Android, in terms of the images and the thumbnails. It was impressive. That actually looks really cool.
They're really managing a lot of the relationship for you with Apple to get your app approved through the developer process and then published in the app store.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So yeah, I'll go through one or two other highlights, and then I want to hear from John and the rest of y'all on some of the you got. Yeah, we'll keep them. As usual, we actually have plenty of content.
Yes.
That is not the problem.
But no Carl.
I always get nervous. Exactly.
Carl.
It's a Carl. It's a Carl.
See what happens without you, Carl.
Safe travels, Carl. Everyone take a drink.
Oh gosh.
I think that is
I think that's
good. We'll make a pact.
All right, sorry, I derailed.
Okay, so Einstein was everywhere. And that's one of those things that it's an underlying technology in Salesforce that actually means a lot of different things, a lot of different products. And so
It's basically a brand.
yeah, it's a brand. It is.
A bunch of technology.
Well, yeah, exactly. And so one of the things we get asked is, what does Squid do with Einstein? And one of the questions that we want to ask is, what part of Einstein, which products? And so I definitely want us to continue to dive in and have a better understanding of those products, because there's Einstein Analytics, there's Einstein Predictions, there's Einstein Next Best Action. We saw some cool stuff with Einstein Designer, which is a tool for Commerce Cloud that does some, I guess, AI enhanced design, putting us out of a job, maybe. I don't know.
That's a little hasty, but
Yeah, right, exactly. I'm just preparing for the coming war with the machines. Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of Einstein products that we can interface with different ways. I was looking at Einstein Analytics as a REST API.
Cool.
That seems to be documented pretty well. We do have customers that are working with Squid and Einstein. I think right now most of that means that they're just iframing Einstein stuff into the Lightning page or the Squid page. But I would love to find some more kind of integrated approaches.
I would really love to see a user showcase an Einstein demo.
Yes, I'll put out a bounty. If you've got a Squid Einstein app where you're connecting directly to Einstein data, we want to see it. All right. Another question I had is, okay, what is Customer 360? And the same deal as Einstein. It is a broad way of talking about different technologies that work together in Salesforce. It's many things that add up to just a different way of talking about it. Things like, MuleSoft's data manager that lets you manage a ton of integrations with other data to get that. They're talking about truth. It's truth. What is the truth? They're getting philosophical. So you're a philosophy major, weren't you?
No.
Not even close.
Yeah. See, Nate was talking you up as this like philosophical, just like, guru. So, yeah, way off, just completely off. It was almost an insult. So, that's super cool.
Waverly wants you to know that she was a philosophy major.
Waverly's a
Yeah.
philosophy major. All
Good.
right.
Good.
She can tell us what
Thank
truth
you,
is. Okay, last thing. One thing I thought was kind of interesting about this year was just meeting with customers and prospects. From hearing the folks that are at the booth, Squid is better positioned than ever to work very, very well with Salesforce. And they both make each other better. We talk to Salesforce very well. We're able to take advantage of just the awesome data modeling capabilities of Salesforce. And then Lightning has pushed things to a much better kind of status quo for folks. And we're able to jump off that to some really, really cool stuff. And just from talking to customers and prospects, they've got a good sense now. What does it mean to actually work and live in the Salesforce Lightning world? And they now have a much better sense of, okay, cool. Now here's the cool stuff that we want to go do with Squid on top of that. And that was just really, really exciting. Gives us a lot of ideas going into 2020 of how we can make that even better. So that's my takeaways. John, what were some of the things that stood out to you?
So I hadn't heard much about Lightning Developer Pro Sandboxes. I know they're not brand new. And I believe that's what it is. I think they said Lightning Sandboxes in one of the sessions that I was in, but as I've been looking around for it, that's what I've seen. But the idea of, so this is another version of Scratch sandboxes or Scratch orgs. And so this is basically something where you can take and clone your entire org in 10 minutes without the sort of normal refresh quotas that they have. So that was really cool. I saw it in passing, didn't see a ton of information about it, but I was like, oh, okay, we should remember that. One of the things that we saw pretty much every place where we talked about Lightning UI was dynamic forms. Dynamic forms, Salesforce was very excited about dynamic forms, and I think for good reason. This is something that people have been asking about for how many years?
I think it's been on the success ideas for like 14.
It's the number one voted idea, and it's one of the ideas that at one point somebody said, we're not going to do that yet, somebody from Salesforce, but you should check out this third-party app exchange ISV who does it called Squid. We're like, okay, thanks. I mean, that's cool. But so what is dynamic forms? Dynamic forms essentially lets you take the monolithic record detail component that normally would be in a detail page that would have been configured in the page layout editor and lets you break it up into sections and fields. So that's one part of it. That alone is cool because instead of having to have a specific layout that is governed by record types, you can now have one specific to the page that you're building and the app that you're building. The second part of it is they now are conditionally renderable at the field and section level. So you can essentially replace many of the repetitive or slightly nuanced record or layouts that you would have previously had with one, and then use information about either the current record, the user, or even the device. You can, like we were talking about a little bit ago, you can look at, is this on a phone or is this on a desktop? And you can use that to show whether or not, or to decide whether or not you want to show that. So the Lightning team is super excited about that. And
now that's only back office apps though, right? It's not, I don't think it's coming to communities.
I don't believe it's coming to communities. It's specifically for the Lightning app builder. Those are two separate.
I'm sure it'll come to communities shortly after though.
Yep. And they're looking for more places to spread it. For sure.
And a lot of that I think is available right now in Flow, Lightning Flow. I think they've added the ability to conditionally render like fields and stuff like that in Lightning Flow. Shannon Hale's working hard over there. I miss you, Shannon. We miss you. We miss you. I like to think that we had some influence on that just from having her around, being a part of the these conversations, but now she's making Lightning flow really good.
Absolutely.
And it's already really good. She's making it even better.
Yeah. We can claim some inspiration, whether it's warranted or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, right. It's probably not warranted. She's brilliant.
Dynamic Form's got like loops from the audience beyond just like clear Salesforce employees too. I was sitting next to
Absolutely.
a lady from Germany, and you know
who was otherwise stoic.
And then saw the form, she was like,
Woo!
one time,
And then went back to being stoic. Yeah, and that reaction was so I saw three different sessions where this was touched on, and every session people were like, "That's sweet." There were whoops and stuff and everyone. So that's something to be looking at, and really so we are always encouraging our folks to take Salesforce as far as it can go, and the inflection point for Squid is typically that point where you need to get into custom code, and so this just makes it so that you can go a little bit farther without actually having to jump into something custom, which is great. So another part of that that dovetailed was, and so by the way, dynamic forms is available is in pilot right now, and then is going to be GA with the next release. Following with that is dynamic actions, and so right now actions are pretty much only available in quick actions and then up in the highlight bar up on the top. And so now you're going to have a new component that is called an action ribbon. And the action ribbon can be dragged in and basically placed anywhere on the page. And so you have a lot more flexibility about with where actions are showing up within a Lightning layout, a Lightning page. And then you can also conditionally render those as well. So that's going to be a follow-on where it'll be pilot with the next release and then GA
and
following.
I think one question folks have is, all right, when would I use, a Lightning quick action or Salesforce action versus, Squid action framework actions? And what I would say is what's great about the way Salesforce does it is they've done their best to make it as modular as possible so that an admin can go create an action and it's reusable. They can go use it in a bunch of different contexts. And so if that's the kind of thing that you need across an organization, well, that's what Salesforce does really, really well there. But then when you get into, page specific kind of needs for this experience, this process, only in this context, it's highly tailored, it's highly customized, highly branded. Doesn't necessarily make sense to do it at an org-wide level. That's where go build a Squid page, because you can do all of that right there. You don't have to go create something that's really just for that thing, and make it something that has to be shared across, all the different pages. So that's something I think we'll continue to try and get into, and what's going to be good where. But that's kind of one thing that jumps out to me there.
Well, I think one thing that's worth noting too is as you're building the page, you're looking at actions that were previously created. Whenever you're trying to pull in the quick actions, the dynamic actions. And so there's a sort of natural overlap of places where there are similar things. And Squid, you're using pre-configured actions too. They just tend to be a little more granular. And so again, depending on the use case, there are going to be some times where you're like, I've already configured this somewhere else. I just want to see it in this new place that I'm building.
Yeah.
Absolutely makes sense to pull in that action bar. Or maybe in their demo, they typically would say, oh, maybe I get to this particular phase or status, and then this is now visible and it wasn't before. That's great. If that's the only tweak, they're basically making it so you don't have to have as much customization for really small nuanced changes to otherwise out of the box pages, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And so, where we sort of again, this pattern kind of shows up all over the place with Squid. It's like when you need to go above and beyond that, or much deeper and wider, that's the place where you're going to naturally find that the Squid action framework is a little bit more granular and a little bit more modular for those.
It's just more targeted.
Exactly, and allows you to be that. So there are different things for different uses. Absolutely.
All right.
We got like 15 minutes
Yeah.
left.
Yeah, so let's blaze
All
through.
right. So one booth story. Yeah. It's the extended.
One booth story, we gave away a ton of hats.
Oh yeah, the hats play.
So
hats.
booth story is that simple demos still drop jobs.
Cool. Yeah.
How much time did you spend at the booth?
Rob was there a lot.
Booth
There's
veterans.
an acronym.
So why don't you go to Paul and have Paul show what he's.
I have one booth story.
Yeah.
One booth
One
story.
booth story from Jay, and then there's one highlight from Nate that I want to hear from.
We had Jeremy Ross from Good Day Sir drop by our booth. It's the first time he'd been here in like 5 years, and he came and sold us out. and he walked up and we recognized him, and he recognized us. So it was good to see an old friend like that again.
You did this thing like.
Yes.
I see you.
So shout out to Jeremy Ross and John DeSantiago. Those are
Awesome.
good guys. If you don't
If you've
listen to
never
Good Day-
checked out the Good Day Sir
Good Day
podcast,
Sir
you
podcast.
absolutely should.
It's a really good Salesforce podcast.
They've
They've
also-
been doing it for like 5.
We've also got a Slack channel.
Yes, which is
That's
great.
great. We also have an unofficial Slack channel.
Yes.
Started by Carl Lee, Squid alum, now doing design development work up in Philly. Yeah, if you're interested in that, I think there's a community post. There's a community post about that. Please go get on there and tell us how you're doing. Nate, there's a really cool thing that we saw that we were all excited about. What was it? That first one there.
Which, I mean, I saw a lot of them, but which one are you like?
The first cool thing that you
Yeah.
put in there.
So I was really excited about seeing, went to the App Exchange roadmap session at the leadership team for that. Leslie, I think Mike Wolf, a couple other folks there, and they're really focused on Trailhead. They're piloting partners publishing direct to Trailhead. They actually announced it during the session with Conga. And I asked the question, like, are you guys open to more partners being able to do that in the future? And they kind of all looked at each other and I think it was Leslie, she said, yeah, Mike is making us. That was her quote. So, like, I know that they're, like, really interested in that. I know they announced, too, that you can, they're already making a capability available soon to have partners to be able to publish to, like, partner my trailheads. But the point being that they're really focused on
opening it up.
expanding
Yeah.
that out. They've dropped a lot of AWS content on there, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, I'll put the link here. I grabbed the link to the AWS trail that's already live there. But yeah, that is really exciting to us. So.
You got to shout out John Delbert too.
Oh yeah.
You can go look at the session. It was like Wednesday. I think it's like in the 5 o'clock
Yeah.
slot. So
Mhm.
kind of a like lame time from the sense of, you know, he did an awesome presentation.
Yeah. What he
At
built
the
is,
dregs of the day.
Yeah.
well, because he was competing with everybody trying to get to Fleetwood Mac.
And he did an awesome mic drop moment because at the very beginning, he said, you'll notice that this is the only presentation this week where we don't have the forward-looking slide because none of this is forward-looking until the present works right now. And then rolled into it and thought it was just awesome.
Yeah,
He did really
it was really good. All right, let's skip ahead.
Yeah.
So this week, our partner showcase is Paul Mackinac at LeanCog. Paul, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're showing today.
All right. Well, I'm Paul Mackinac. I'm the founder of LeanCog. We're a consulting firm and excited to be a partner of Squid's for, I don't know, 5 years,
You guys
4
are
years,
better.
something like that.
Oh,
long
yeah.
I've
time.
been in it.
So what I want to show today, if I can share my screen,
Yep. Here, I'll stop and you go.
you move my share button. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so we have several times come across really big tables, and there seems to be a user hatred of pagination. They want to just scroll, and in Lightning now, you know, they have infinite scroll and stuff like that.
These millennials, you
I
know,
know. And so
scrolling through feeds all day.
what we discovered, though, when we just loaded everything, if we had big tables with lots of lookups, with big data sets, the page could take 30, 40, 50 seconds to load to get all those lookups, and everything's just locked. So what we wanted was the load more functionality. So traditionally, if you see this, you get down to the bottom. So let's say we have 30 loaded, you click load more and you scroll to the bottom and you click load more. And so that's not really a terrific experience.
Oh man.
So what we did is we created a little JavaScript that clicks the button for you, basically. So I call it Autoload More. So let me show a quick demonstration of that. So on this page, you'll see when I get to the bottom, bang.
Whoa.
In this way, so if you have a simple table, you can load several hundred rows and it's fine. But if you have a lot of lookups, you try to load several hundred or thousand records, it's not going to happen. And this is a great way to kind of get a double win there. You can still give the user something that it just kind of loads on demand, but bite size it so the system can load it quickly at each scroll.
Well, and especially if you're doing it in edit mode, that's something that we've seen from time to time. We run into performance issues if you have a ton of rows and you got a ton of fields and they're all in edit mode, and like multi-selects are in there and reference fields and a polymorphic field. Like it just takes time to load that stuff. And so, is that fair to say? I mean, we got a lot better at it, but just
Stuff takes time to load.
there's just
That's how that
natural
works.
We got to make a lot of SQL
Yeah,
queries, right?
absolutely.
And that takes time.
Yeah.
And metadata just compounds.
So yeah, I mean, especially for tables that are in edit mode, I can think of a number of use cases with our customers right now that would love to see that. So, okay, so that's really cool. So how did you do that?
Well, let me get over here and I'll show you in the page builder. So we have a JavaScript snippet, a very simple one. Move this so I can see. Oh, wait a minute, I'm doing this wrong. I gotta do this.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
And something
yeah.
didn't feel right. All right.
Yeah.
I knew something was wrong.
There we go.
There we go.
All right.
Now that I'm in the Squid hat
This
and the
is your
Squid
thinking
page
cap.
builder. Yes, now I can do it. All right, so
His inking cap.
Inking cap. There we go.
my inking cap. I like that. All right. That needs to be a quote for next. We need to save that one as well.
All right.
Next time you guys present DSS, it's got to be the inking cap.
All right.
So as you can see, this is a super short little JavaScript. It's not very complicated. What we're doing here is we are looking for the find more button or the load more button. And when it comes into view, we are going to run this little scroll function. And so I've got a couple references to my models. I've got two models here. One is accounts, which I'm going to load more rows. The other is controller. If you notice real quick, when I get to the bottom, this little load more rows pops up. And so that way there's some form of user feedback that they know something's coming. You could do whatever you want there. It could be a little, you could block the UI, you could add a little scroll icon, whatever. It's just a simple example. So all we do is if that button is in the view, the viewport, in viewport, then we update the row to show loading more rows as true for our flag model, which is what I'm using to control the conditional render of the little message. And then we take the other model, which is my account, and we load the next page offset. And so that's basically it. And on the layout, you can see I've got a conditional render down here for my
Your snippet
controller
returns
model,
true.
right?
Yay!
No, it's just
Awesome. That is a smart use of that render condition property. Man, okay, that's really awesome. If I want to get that in some of my pages, how can I get that?
Well, I'm really glad you asked. You're Cody on the line?
Yeah, Cody, are you there?
You might have to.
No, he's bounced.
Oh, gotcha.
He might be muted. Cody?
I'm glad you
wanna
asked.
see it up while
Cody
we're
was on the
on here?
line.
Let's see. I know he's here.
He's there. You gotta.
Unmute. I have to
Oh,
unmute
it's
him.
not letting you unmute yourself? Okay.
It's not letting me unmute him.
Unmute the
I
There you go.
unmuted him.
Aha! Hello. I'm free from muting.
All right, let's start it over. Paul, if I want to use this in my pages,
We'll edit this out in
how,
post.
how can I do that?
Well, I'm really glad you asked. Is Cody on the line?
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Cody here to tell you about Squid Labs.
Oh man, Squid Labs. What's Squid Labs, Cody?
So Squid Labs is this really cool place. It is an open source repository on GitHub that we made to show off all the cool things that you do with Squid. Paul was really gracious with his time and submitted this as a pull request to there. As you can tell by this, I mean, this is a really cool instance of combining code with Squid's own
Hang on, real
functionality.
quick. Cody, did you want to share your screen or you want me to navigate on my screen?
Ooh, that'd be great if you could navigate on your screen.
Oh, I just stopped. Hang on. I'll bring it. I thought you were saying that would be great if I could share, but there we go.
Give me the screen. No, this is great. So it's a GitHub repository. If you're unfamiliar with GitHub, you'll need to sign up with an account. But if you do know how to navigate all that, just get your pull or clone this repository and create a pull request. And a person on our team will take a look at the code, make sure it follows our contributor guidelines, give you some feedback, and then we'll accept your pull request and merge it in. And it's just meant to be a place to show off, snippets, custom components, really cool pages. It doesn't necessarily have to involve code, but it kind of leans more technical right now. And it also has a place for write-ups. We have a write-up about implementing analytics in your Squid pages. So it's really just a place for if you have something interesting that you built with Squid that you'd like to show off for the community, send it over to us and we'll try and get eyes on it.
Well, and as someone who doesn't come from a background in code development, really don't want this to be scary for people like me. It really isn't. And what's cool about it, it's not scary. It's not scary. Okay. No, it's not. And part of the reason for that is, well, actually, Paul, do you want to talk about the 3 files that are in there?
Yeah, so this is the pattern for all the snippets to try to make it super duper easy and not scary. So there are 3 portions of each of these contributions. One is a README that explains what it is, right? So this explains what the functionality is.
It's just like prose. I can read that.
Yeah, that's good for philosophy majors.
Yeah.
Because the developers never open these.
History. That was history. All right.
All right, so the 3 files, there's a README describing it. There is a sample page, which is what I just demoed.
Awesome.
So that page is up here, so you can have the whole functional page. And then the true meat is in the JavaScript file, which this is the JavaScript that I just showed you with some notes in it to help point you around. So for example, if you wanted to use this, you would just copy this JavaScript and you just need to make a couple changes because obviously the naming of the model is specific. So you'd have to match your model name and you'd have to decide if you wanted to have a controller model that does some user feedback while it's processing or not. But that's what's included.
Yeah, well, and if you're new to working with JavaScript and Squid, what I love about having the page XML is that you can go get it, you can paste it in, you can actually see it in context and how it works. Which can help you if you then want to just copy and paste it over to another page. So I really love this. And Paul, I think you are the first non-Squid employee to upload something to the Squid Labs. So
Nice.
we got to give him a round of applause.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very exciting.
We'll give you a Squid hat and yeah, and we'll figure something else to make you feel special because you are special.
Gee, thanks.
Yeah. No. Seriously, this is awesome.
Yeah,
I hope we get a lot more of cool stuff that takes Squid beyond the out of the box capability. Cool combos. To help
Yeah, I mean, this is great because there's a lot of great JavaScript snippets out on the community, but they're hard to find and sometimes they're missing examples and it leaves a lot to the imagination. This format, I think, makes it way easier for people to.
Or sometimes they need to be tweaked and updated down the line.
Right.
Like
Well,
that
You
sort of
gotta
stuff.
adopt that format. I mean, you formatted it that way, right, Paul?
No, I copied the existing format. There's a couple others
Yeah.
out there that's been contributed by your team. And
Yep.
So
Cody,
they just
you're
said,
not
make it
starting
look like
from
this.
scratch. Yep.
So I did.
Cody
And
in
there-
particular put a lot of work in.
Yeah,
Right.
and there was some good back and forth between Cody and yourself, getting it up to where it needed to be to go in there. And so, yeah, please go get in there, give it a shot. And if something needs to be changed, we're not going to be jerks about it. We want to help you because this is good for everyone.
Yep.
So, thank you. That's awesome. And thank you, Cody. All
We're
right.
just after 12.
Yeah, we're going to go over a little bit.
Folks might have to start getting off. So.
Yeah. So we'll finish up here with just a few items. All right. So let's actually hear from Cody real quick. What's going on the product content side?
We just muted him.
We just muted him again. No.
I mean, you Cody.
Hey everyone, Cody again here with a product content team update. So something that we just published, I think maybe late last week, is we've rearranged our doc site to make things easier to find. Before we kind of had stuff organized sort of by how things were clustered in the app, sort of by concept. Now we've clustered things based on concepts, reference, and site administration and tutorials. So that'll kind of like, if you click into concepts, you'll be able to basically go through the process that you'll need to go through as a Squid builder. You're going to want to connect to data, then you're going to want to build your page, then you're going to style it, then you're going to want to deploy, then you're probably going to want to extend. So we've kind of clustered all of that stuff together and tried to make those sub navs in the TOC a lot more concise and navigable. And the reference material has its own section. If you just need to know, hey, I'm using this API and I need to know what it does, or there's a Squid term that I don't really understand, you know, just like quick, just-in-time information like that, we have a reference section where we're trying to gather all of that stuff. If you don't need to go and read about like the philosophy of a model, which I encourage you to read, but if you just need a quick, you know, update on something, check out the reference section. So
awesome. Thank you, Cody. And then Jay, what have you guys been working on?
Yes, quick hits. Just leave it right there. I'll read through. Spark 12.2.10 dropped earlier this week, I believe. 21 issues addressed. 20 of them were defects. One I wanted to call out. This was the one improvement, actually. Wizard focused. You may have noticed in V2, the screen would scroll around a whole lot with wizards because it was trying to find inputs.
Oh, yeah.
So like you would navigate to step 2 and it would scroll you down to the bottom where the only input field was. So we fixed that. We got a lot of feedback that was kind of jarring for users. So that one had a lot of eyes on it and it got fixed. There's also a MIU patch that went out this week, but I forgot to put it on the list. The platform deployed last week, the latest release, it had 88 issues and 49 defects. So you're seeing that. The next round of releases will probably go after Thanksgiving. But one thing I did want to call out, and this is in all current versions, MIU and Spark, or 11.2 and 12.2, a heads up, there are a couple of Salesforce critical updates that are rolling out in the new year that kind of change some of the security around Lightning. So previously, if you just had permission to the Lightning component, you were covered for all of your Apex permissions, but now they're requiring explicit permission to any Aura-enabled classes that contain an Aura-enabled method for it to work in Lightning. It's pretty, it makes sense. You shouldn't, or I get why they're doing it. It's not crazy. It makes you have to grant permission to the thing that someone is using, whereas before you just kind of inherited it. We have updated our Squid permission sets to account for this. So if you install our latest patches, 12.2.10 and MIU 11.2. I can't remember now. And then make sure your users have one of the Squid permission sets. You're good. You won't have any disruption come February. I think it starts rolling out. If you're not on the latest or you don't want to do the patch, then just heads up. You need to sort out those permissions yourself. Give your users permission to those classes. We sent out an email from support, just giving you a heads up, and I think we have a post on the community that has the particulars, but wanted to take every chance to call that out before February.
I'm going to respond to Bill Fox's question there.
Okay.
He's asking about actions on wrappers or grids. So we are continuing to look at V2 components like the accordion component. Bill, I don't have any specifics yet, but we do know some of the requested features for how accordions should behave. There's been some design work. I think there has been some development work, and we'll continue to be looking at that and other features. So I don't have anything more concrete for you, Bill, but we hear you. And
I'll second that one.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, all right.
Global before and after actions on objects.
Oh, man.
Sliding panels, pop-ups, all that stuff.
You got some reinforcements from Paul here. So no, that's good to hear. And we really do want to hear that feedback from you, the user. And to that point, last thing I want to do is we typically do polls on every Nautilus Notes. What I want to actually start doing is instead of doing it through the Zoom webinar, we've actually got Google Forms that we'll do. So we can run it over a little bit longer of a time. We'll post links to the community and get a bit bigger of a sample size in terms of what you, the user, thinks about Squid. So John, you got a link for me in there?
I'll put it in the chat.
Okay.
It's in the document.
Awesome. John's putting it in the chat right now. And I'll actually go find it. We're in right there. Perfect. We can just go take a look and basically want to know kind of about the two ends of the spectrum from the user perspective. So at the front end, when you were learning Squid as a user, what's the most challenging aspect of that for you? And this is free text because we just want you to tell us what it was. and we'll go get into that. And then secondly, on the higher end of the spectrum, when you're getting into the details of Squid and extending with code, and doing the stuff that Paul and Cody are doing there, we would like to know, what is your most valuable way of extending Squid with code? There's a couple different ways you can do it, and we want to hear from you. What's the most popular?
And some of these are potentials of ways you've thought about doing it that aren't possible yet.
Yeah. So please let us know. We'll post this to the community as well. And I think that's about all we have time for today. Anything else before we finish up that I'm forgetting?
No.
Got
Dreamforce was good.
Dreamforce. It was a great Dreamforce.
It was.
Man, I had some really great meetings with customers and prospects. Heard some great stories from the booth, and really excited about Squid and Salesforce in 2020.
And I'm coming up so that people can hear me, because they said, hey, we can't hear you way back there. So just
gotcha.
again, shout out John Dahlberg.
Oh, yeah.
Wednesday, 5 p.m. block. Component-based architecture with Salesforce and Squid.
It's
Worth
really
checking out.
absolutely
Really good
worth
session. He's a master.
And then
It was really, really good.
Will
Kuchelny?
from Car Gurus did a presentation as well. He's doing some really cool stuff with Squid.
Those are
His
worth
team up there as well. So those should be online. Go check them out. Great presentations. We've got really, really great users doing really cool stuff with the Squid product. So stay in it. Let us know how it goes and how we can help you, and how we can make it better for you.
We did not record it, but it would have been recorded from the Dreamforce session. So they record most every breakout.
It takes them a while to actually publish.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we should actually troll.
By next Dreamforce, it should be up.
We should troll
No,
that
hopefully
YouTube
not.
channel and then put those links in the community.
That's yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So we'll watch for that and share it out.
Oh wait, last thing. Trailhead Challenge.
Oh,
yeah.
So tell everybody what that
Yeah.
was.
Oh man, just completely whiffed. So we did an internal Trailhead Challenge at Squid over the past couple weeks going into Dreamforce. And I got approval from Jeff to bring in some pretty good prizes. So we got a first, second, third prize. We basically said to anyone at Squid, if you go get into Trailhead, the most number of new Trailhead points. So it's all about the differential. So even if you've already done a bunch of badges, you could go get a bunch of new badges and still win. Or you could start for the first time and do good as well. So our first, second, and third place winners, number one is Chris Stern.
Chris
Stern,
Stern.
who is a pre-sale solutions engineer. He went from like 30,000 to like 80,000 points. Got a ton of badges. Guy is just a beast. So he won, and he won biggest differential and most overall. So he's got bragging rights. But then second place is Karen McElrath.
Nice.
Our business operations analyst internally. So she works to help a lot of us internally at Squid. And she went and got into Salesforce because she has to support a lot of our internal Salesforce.
She's in
CRM,
finance,
so,
y'all, and
yeah.
she won the Trailhead.
Yeah,
Second place Trailhead.
yeah. So we got some good experts, and then third place,
Somebody who's on the call.
someone who's on the call, a philosophy major, Waverly Christopher. That's our partner manager, and so she.
did all the philosophy courses that they're available now.
Yeah, right. Hey, there's some very abstract stuff on there if you know where to look. So.
I think to build Squid, you got to be abstract.
Well, there you go. You got to be a philosopher at heart, to be honest. Yeah. Yes, she got 2 super badges as well.
Sweet.
Yeah. So we just want to shout out those folks, and I highly recommend it if you're wanting to dig into Salesforce as a company, doing something like that. It's just a great experience. It really is a brilliant product and a great way to learn technology in general. So that's all we got time for. Thank you everyone for coming. It's been a great Dreamforce, and we are excited about 2020.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks,
Thank
Paul.
you, Paul.